The flashing lights, the crowd roaring in excitement, the cameras capturing every moment. This was no ordinary night. The red carpet was alive with energy as Hollywood's elite stepped into the spotlight. But then something happened that no one expected, a moment that left everyone breathless. A girl, with tears in her eyes and a heart full of words she couldn't hold back any longer, ran toward the one person who had always made her feel understood, Keanu Reeves. Imagine this. One of the most iconic actors in Hollywood, someone known for his kindness and humility, standing in front of a crowd at a major event. The paparazzi are snapping away, the stars are dazzling in their designer outfits, and everything seems perfectly orchestrated. Yet in the middle of it all, this young woman makes a split-second decision. She pushes through the crowd, her voice shaky, her steps hurried. It's as if nothing else matters in the world except getting to him. What could possibly compel someone to break through the security lines, to leave behind everything else in a moment of pure desperation? As the girl approached Keanu, the eyes of the audience shifted. Was this a fan? A media stunt? Or something more personal? What happened next stunned everyone in the room. She stopped right in front of him, and in a moment of raw vulnerability, confessed something that no one saw coming. The kind of confession that was so intense, so emotional, it made Keanu freeze. He didn't know what to say, and for the first time that night, the energy in the room shifted from celebration to confusion. The crowd fell silent. The cameras paused their relentless snapping. Keanu, usually so composed and calm, seemed almost taken aback. He stepped back, processing her words, his face showing a rare mix of surprise and concern. It was clear this wasn't just any random fan interaction. This moment meant something far deeper. What did she say to him? What could have been so powerful, so personal, that it stopped a major Hollywood event in its tracks? But the story doesn't end there. The reaction that followed her confession was nothing short of unexpected. Keanu, known for his kind nature, did something that shocked everyone. In the blink of an eye, he made a decision that no one could have predicted. He called for the event to be shut down. Yes, you heard that right. Keanu Reeves stopped the entire event. What was it that made him take such a drastic step? Was it the confession itself, or was there something more? As we dive deeper into this story, we'll explore what really happened on that red carpet and why this moment is still the talk of Hollywood. But the question lingers, what did she say? Stay tuned, because the truth behind Keanu's reaction is far more complex than you might think, and you won't believe how it all unfolds. Keep watching as we uncover the mystery and reveal the moment that shocked the world. To understand what led up to that unforgettable moment on the red carpet, we need to take a step back. This wasn't just any random event. The gala that night was one of the most highly anticipated in Hollywood. Keanu Reeves, beloved by millions for his humble demeanor and unforgettable roles, was there to promote his latest film. It was a night for the stars, a celebration of the industry's best and brightest. The energy was electric, with every celebrity eager to shine under the flashing lights. Among the crowd was a young woman named Emily. She wasn't a star or a well-known influencer, but she was there with a quiet determination. Emily had grown up watching Keanu's films. His roles had a special place in her heart. But it wasn't just his on-screen presence that had impacted her. Keanu's reputation off-screen, the kindness he was known for, resonated deeply with her. She had followed his career for years, watched countless interviews, and admired how he carried himself with grace in a world that could be cold and unfeeling. But Emily's admiration went beyond fandom. She had a personal connection to Keanu's work that few knew about. When she was younger, she had faced unimaginable loss. It was a difficult time in her life. She had lost her mother to an illness, and her world had crumbled. For months, she had struggled with grief and loneliness, feeling as though no one could understand what she was going through. Then she saw one of Keanu's lesser-known interviews where he opened up about his own experiences with pain and loss. It wasn't just a public statement, it felt real. His words hit her in a way that no one else's could. It was as if he understood her, even though they'd never met. Keanu became her silent guide through those dark years, his interviews providing a form of comfort she never expected. Years later, Emily had made it through the worst of it. She had rebuilt herself, found a new sense of purpose, and carved out a path forward. But that connection to Keanu still lingered in her heart. It wasn't just admiration anymore. She felt an unspoken bond to him, one that had carried her through some of her most difficult moments. She had always dreamed of telling him, but the opportunity never came. Until tonight. As Emily watched Keanu arrive at the gala, her heart raced. She wasn't sure what she was expecting. Maybe just a brief glimpse from afar, maybe a chance to see him speak on stage. But when she found herself face to face with him, something changed inside her. It wasn't a fan moment. It wasn't about getting an autograph or snapping a selfie. It was about finally expressing the gratitude she had held in for so long. She had no plan, no script in mind, just the overwhelming urge to speak the truth. As she saw him, standing there in his usual humble, approachable demeanor, it felt like the moment had arrived. The security, the media, the flashing cameras, they all blurred into the background. Emily couldn't hold back any longer. She pushed through the crowd, feeling the eyes of the room on her as she ran toward him. Keanu, in the middle of a conversation with another actor, looked up in surprise as she approached. The crowd murmured, unsure of what was happening. Was she a fan with an odd request? Was this some kind of stunt? But Emily wasn't there to ask for anything. She wasn't there to take. She was there to give something deeply personal. When she reached him, she stood still for a moment, looking into his eyes. There was a vulnerability there, one that made Keanu's expression soften. And then she spoke. She told him how much his words had meant to her all those years ago, how they had helped her through the hardest moments of her life. She described the way his kindness had touched her, how he had unknowingly guided her through her darkest times. The confession was raw, honest, and for Emily, it felt like the weight of years of bottled-up emotion had finally been released. Keanu listened intently, his face a mixture of shock and concern. He wasn't sure how to react at first. Here was this young woman, pouring her heart out, connecting with him in a way that no fan ever had. It was overwhelming, and in that moment, the entire event seemed to pause. The cameras, the reporters, the celebrity chatter, all of it faded as Keanu took a step back, lost in thought. The crowd waited in silence, sensing the gravity of the situation. What happened next would shock everyone. Keanu, visibly moved, looked at the organizers, who were standing off to the side, unsure of what to do. He gave a subtle nod, and in an instant, the gala was brought to a halt. The event organizers, clearly caught off guard, were unsure how to react to such an unexpected interruption. Keanu turned to them, his voice calm but firm. "We're done for tonight," he said. "This is more important." The crowd was in disbelief. The red carpet had come to an abrupt end, and the cameras were left to capture the confusion and the shock in the air. Why had Keanu made such a drastic decision? Was this a publicity stunt? Or was there something more to it, something personal that no one could yet understand? As the evening unfolded, the media speculated. Some suggested that it was a spontaneous act of kindness, while others wondered if Keanu was simply uncomfortable with the intense attention. But one thing was certain, the connection between him and Emily had shifted the entire atmosphere in that moment. And though the world would later try to make sense of what happened, the truth was that the real reason Keanu called it off that night wasn't something easily explained. It wasn't about fame or expectations. It was about something far more human, a reminder that even in the most glamorous moments, real emotions and genuine connections could change everything. And so the night ended in mystery. What did Emily's confession mean for Keanu? What was he feeling, and what would he do next? As the crowd began to disperse, one thing remained clear. Whatever had just happened on that red carpet would be remembered for years to come. As the evening wore on, the world outside the gala buzzed with confusion and speculation. What had just happened? Why had Keanu Reeves, a man known for his calm demeanor, called off an event that was supposed to be one of the biggest nights in Hollywood? Rumors spread quickly. Some claimed it was a publicity stunt. Others believed it was a show of sympathy for a fan. But what most people didn't realize was that the truth behind Keanu's decision was far more complicated than anyone could imagine. The next morning, as the news outlets covered the story, Emily found herself thrust into the spotlight in a way she never expected. Her brief moment of vulnerability had sparked something much bigger than she could have ever anticipated. She didn't feel ready for the attention, but it didn't matter. Keanu's gesture had touched a nerve across the world, and people were eager to understand why he had reacted the way he did. Then just a few days later, Emily received an unexpected message. It wasn't from a fan or a journalist, but from Keanu himself. The message was simple, yet it carried so much weight. "Thank you for your honesty," it read. "I needed to hear that. Let's meet." The meeting took place in a quiet cafe, far from the prying eyes of the paparazzi. Emily was nervous. She wasn't sure what to expect, especially after everything that had unfolded. But when she saw him sitting there in a simple hoodie, with that familiar calmness about him, it felt like the world had slowed down. Keanu spoke first. "You didn't just remind me of something important," he said, his voice soft but steady. "You reminded me of why I do what I do. Sometimes I forget. I get caught up in the noise, and I forget that it's the people, like you, that make this all worth it." Emily sat in awe. She hadn't expected this. The man who had helped her heal years ago, the one who had unknowingly guided her through her pain, was now telling her that she had helped him too. There was no grand speech, no Hollywood drama, just two people connecting over shared humanity. It was a moment that felt like the culmination of everything that had happened: the confession, the red carpet, the interruption of the event. It was all leading to this one simple conversation. Keanu continued, his eyes sincere. "I wasn't expecting what you said, but it made me realize that sometimes the greatest impact we can have is just by being real. By showing up as ourselves, flaws and all." For Emily, it was a full circle moment. She had confessed her pain, her struggles, and the way Keanu's words had helped her heal. And in return, Keanu had shared his own truth with her, a truth that echoed the very message he had shared with so many others. The world may never fully understand why Keanu shut down the gala that night, but for Emily, the reason was clear. It wasn't just a reaction to her words. It was an acknowledgement of something much deeper. A reminder that we all need to connect, to be seen, and to be heard. It wasn't about fame or recognition. It was about the power of empathy, the strength in vulnerability, and the healing that comes from simply sharing your story. As the meeting came to a close, Keanu stood up and gave Emily a small, knowing smile. "Thank you for making me remember," he said. And with that, he left the cafe, disappearing into the world once more. The media would eventually move on. The red carpet event became a distant memory, but the lesson from that night stayed with both Emily and Keanu. Sometimes in the chaos of life, It's easy to forget the power of a genuine connection. But in those quiet moments, when we're brave enough to be honest, that's where the real magic happens. For Emily, the message was clear. No matter how big or small, our words and actions matter. And for Keanu, it was a reminder that the greatest impact he could have wasn't through fame or the movies he made, but through the kindness he showed, even in the most unexpected of moments. And as for the world, they may never fully understand the depths of that red carpet moment, but they were left with something more valuable, a glimpse into the humanity of a man who had been, and always would be, a beacon of hope for those who needed it most.